Hey everyone, welcome to another Modern Deck Tech. Today we are deck teching Temur Prowess. I first deck teched this deck last year. It looked quite different from what it looks like today. I was also still playing it on X-Mage, so you know, different time, different era of Delver of Brews. I definitely wanted to come back to it, especially now where Prowess decks are kind of making a comeback in the meta, with Uro going away. And you know, if you want to play mono red Prowess or blue red Prowess, those deck techs exist, and you know they're perfectly fine. They work relatively well. I wanted to, of course, try something new or something different, and by something new I meant playing Temur Prowess instead. So adding green to the Prowess deck and seeing what it provides, if much at all, and how that actually fares against other decks that are going around in the meta right now. So, you know, before I get into this deck tech, I would just like to, a few words from Delver Brews directly to you. If you enjoy my content, I would really appreciate you subscribing, hitting that subscribe button on YouTube under this video. A few seconds that it takes you to do that really helps me out a lot. It helps the YouTube algorithm, suggest my videos to other like-minded viewers, and that, just helps the channel grow, really helps me out a lot, and I would really appreciate it. It takes a few seconds hitting that notification bell as well, if that's your thing. No pressure, but that also helps. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, giving it a thumbs up at the end or halfway through, whatever it may be. Also really appreciate that. Really helps me out a lot. Sharing this on social networks does a lot as well. All those little things that seem basic to you does a lot for channels like mine. So really appreciate it. Let's get on to the core. All right. So we're playing a Prowess deck. So of course the core is going to be all Prowess creatures. Soulscar Mage. I really like Soulscar Mage, even though it's, not haste. But a 1/2, it's essentially almost a carbon copy of Monastery Swift Spear, except it doesn't have haste, of course. And it has a different ability altogether. So let's just read it really quick. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a creature the opponent controls, put that many -1/-1 counters on that creature instead. So this is useful in instances where, for example, you're getting around creatures with indestructibility, because the -1/-1 counters, if they get enough of them, will simply kill off the creature anyway, indestructible or not. So that's really cool to have with Soulscar Mage. And of course, just permanently weakening a creature as well can help you kill it, let's say in 2 blows, or 2, whatever it may be. So that's also something that's very useful to have with Soulscar Mage. Very cool card. It's Prowess as well. If you start with Soulscar Mage and Monastery Swift Spear in your opening hand, you'll play Soulscar Mage first, because then next turn you could attack with both at the same time. So, just a little hint there. So definitely playing 4 of those. 4 Monastery Swift Spears, of course. Of course, I mean, there's not much word. There aren't too many words on that card, but I think it's pretty clear why you would want to play it in the deck like this. And of course, Stormwing Entity. What an awesome card. Really, Stormwing Entity is so awesome. I really love playing with this card, with this creature. Basically, very easy for you to be able to cast a spell for free or play Manamorphose, whatever it may be, and then cast Storming Entity for 2 mana instead of 5. Very, very, very powerful. Yes, it dies to Bolt, but there are ways you can protect it in this deck, and hey, a lot of creatures die to Bolt. All the creatures on this screen die to Bolt, so that's not necessarily a good reason not to play it. A flying Prowess creature ends games very quickly, and of course, to boot, when it enters the battlefield, scry 2. So why not? Modify the next 2 draws and get rid of lands if you don't need them, or get rid of other cards if you don't need them before you draw them. So Stormwing Entity is awesome. Definitely playing 4 of. So far, pretty standard, probably something what you would expect. So let's get on to the other creatures. In this case, just 1 more creature. Tarmogoyf, of course. We're playing Temur. Why would I not play Tarmogoyf? What I like about Tarmogoyf is that it's not Prowess at all. It has no haste. What Tarmogoyf is your constant. It's your constant, consistent creature. It's often going to be a 4/5, sometimes going to be a 5/6. And it's a creature that doesn't rely on you casting spells. It could just be there. It could be the big butt that kind of stays behind while your Prowess creatures attack in. And it can help fend off, oncoming attacks the next turn. Or it could just turn sideways and attack with your Prowess creatures. And then your opponent's going to have to decide, what creature does it kill? Does it kill the big Tarmogoyf? Or does it kill your Prowess creatures, which, if they go unblocked, you may be able to pump up and make them even bigger than your Tarmogoyf is. So Tarmogoyf plays a very powerful role in Temur Prowess. you definitely need 4 of, and it's worked wonders for me in all the matches I've played with this deck. So let's move on to the cantrips. You're playing quite a bit here. So Serum Visions, of course. Serum Visions, don't have to say much there. Mishra's Bauble as well. Helps you, interact with your fetches a bit. If you could cast Mishra's Bauble first. There we go. You could tell I don't script my videos. Sack it, and look what you're about to draw. If you don't want it, you can crack a fetch, and then you essentially kind of scry it away. It's like pseudo scry. So anyway, whatever it may be, or you can just target your opponent and see what they're about to draw, get some information about what type of deck they're playing. Mishra's Bubble is very cool here, and of course it helps you grow your Tarmogoyf. I should just mention that. Manamorphose, of course, very good interaction with Storming Entity, of course. So you can cast this turn 2 and then essentially cast Storming Entity with the 2 mana you generated from Manamorphose. It's beautiful, very, very beautiful, but you're also drawing a card, so there's a big bonus there. Yeah, definitely playing 4 Manamorphose. Light Up the Stage is technically a cantrip, I guess, yes. You're not really drawing cards, technically, but they are going into exile, and you can use them for a temporary amount of time, so I'm going to consider it a cantrip. And of course, you're going to be casting it for its spectacle cost, ideally. Now, it'd be great if you could, Lightning Bolt your opponent first main phase, and then cast Spectacle, so you can get some value out of getting 2 prowess triggers on your creatures. But if you're casting this on the second main phase, it's not the end of the world. The point is you have 2 cards that you can cast either right away or during your next turn. So, Light Up the Stage, very, very powerful. It's such an awesome card. Now, the removal, you're playing 4 Lightning Bolt. That's it. 4 Lightning Bolt. Don't have to say much about Lightning Bolt. And then you're playing another 4 Lightning Bolt, technically. So Skewer the Critics deals 3 damage to any target, kind of like Lightning Bolt, for 1 mana if you can cast it for spectacle cost. So, again, very cool. If you can somehow deal damage to your opponent in the first main phase and then play Skewer the Critics for 1 red, it's, who wouldn't want to play 8 Lightning Bolts in their deck in Modern? I do. My hand is up right now like an idiot alone in my room. So yeah, Skewer the Critics is an awesome card, but even if you cast it either for full cost sometimes, which I have done, and I'm almost certain in the 3 matches I'm posting up today, and at least one of them I did that, to win the game, or you're casting it in the second main phase, it doesn't really matter. It's a 1 mana Lightning Bolt. That's not Lightning Bolt. So Skewer the Critics, very, very powerful card here. So the pump. We're playing 4 Mutagenic Growth, so Mutagenic Growth kind of has a few use cases here. Yes, it could help pump up your creatures and make them even bigger with the prowess triggers and all that. You can cast it for a green, or you can pay 2 life. You could also use it to protect your prowess creatures, or your creatures in general, from removal when you're not attacking in, which I've done many a time, to protect my Storming Entity. Or you can cast it to, ideally, yes, pump up your creatures, but then it does count as a card cast, so then you can also cast Storming Entity for 2 mana as opposed to 5. So turn 2, let's say you cast Mutagenic Growth to target your Swift Spear or whatever you play turn 1, and then you can cast Storming Entity for 2 mana, even if you only have 2 lands open, so you didn't need Manamorphose. So that's what I really like about Mutagenic Growth. It gives you that flexibility. It also interacts with Storming Entity very well. It could be played offensively, it could play defensively. It just has a lot of utility in a deck like this. I would definitely play it. And of course, if you get cast it for green and not lose 2 life, it's kind of a bonus. So the lands, nothing too crazy about the lands here. We're not playing that many lands, believe it or not. But yeah, let's go through them really quick. So we're playing 1 Breeding Pool, 2 Steam Vents, 1 Stomping Ground. Nothing too crazy there. We're also playing 4 Misty Rainforest and 4 Scalding Tarns. And we're playing 2 Spiral of Canals, 1 Island, 1 Forest. So why Spiral of Canal? Well, I just didn't want to be too painful in my mana base. Mostly because of Mutagenic Growth, honestly, because I knew I was going to be paying 2 life often in Mutagenic Growth. So I wanted Spiral of Canals to be in there so that I'm not just hurting myself too much. It's basically as simple as that. And I wanted more dual lands without playing more shocks. So that's usually I don't like playing more than 2 of any one particular shock in a deck. It's just how I am. So if I wanted more Steam, I could have just played 4 Steam Vents, but that's not really the point. This is the one instance where a conditional card like Spiral of Canal is okay to play. Plus, the mana curve on a deck like this is extremely low, so you don't need to play that many lands to be able to play all your spells. So, playing Spiral of Canal is perfectly fine in these numbers. So those are really the lands, nothing too crazy here. The sideboard, again, the sideboard changes from one meta to another, but this is what I ended up with. Veil of Summer, 3 of, you're playing green, which is an awesome point, awesome aspect of playing Temur Prowess. So, of course, that gives you a bit more play against mid-range, black-based mid-range decks, or control decks, whatever it may be. Really love Veil of Summer. Surgical Extraction to deal with graveyard strategies. Now, I'm playing Surgical Extraction specifically because it's an instant that you can pay 2 life for that kind of works like Mutagenic Growth in a sense. So yes, you can cast it for free, get rid of a card in a graveyard and in your opponent's hand and in their library. So Surgical Extraction is super powerful against combo decks, for example. But it also boosts up your creature's power through prowess, and you could also use it defensively to protect them from removal, damage-based removal at least. So Surgical Extraction is important here in many respects. Spreading Seas, in theory, you could play Cleansing Wildfire as well, because it's the same cost, but I want to rely on blue in this case. Spreading Seas can be used against anything, really, that doesn't play blue, to help, shut off some colors early on. It also cantrips, so you draw a card. Worst case, if it hits the graveyard, it also helps you grow your Tarmogoyf, but that's not really the main reason I was playing it. I just like the ability to shut off a land and not necessarily ramp my opponent in a deck like this, in a deck where I'm trying to be explosive at the same time. So Spreading Seas made a lot more sense for me. But you can swap this out if you don't feel like Spreading Seas is the right card to play. Reality Shift, I really love Reality Shift. I still feel like Reality Shift is underplayed in the meta. I prefer it almost always over Dismember, which is what a lot of people would be playing in Temur shells or shells that don't have access to black. But really, exile target creature is an extremely powerful thing to be able to do when you don't have access to white, for example, or you don't have efficient removal in black. And the fact that they're going to manifest the top card of their library is almost always irrelevant. It's a 2/2 that they can then flip over after by paying its mana cost, but it's never blown up in my face, ever. It just never has. The 2/2 stays there, and worst case, you could remove the 2/2 after with your Lightning Bolt or whatever if you're really afraid of it. But, first, what are the odds that it ends up being a creature that they manifest? And 2, who cares? I mean, the point is you're getting rid of a big creature that you didn't want on the battlefield, and it's exiled, it's gone, you get around indestructibility. Reality Shift is awesome. Life goes on for some life gain. You can play around with this number as well. But your creatures are almost always going to be dying in some number because they are small and fragile, so gaining 8 life for 1 green is going to be pretty easy and very good against burn decks and blitz decks and whatever it is. And last but not least, Fade into Antiquity. Here I'm kind of hedging against the Heliod decks right now, so exiling target enchantment, obviously for Heliod being that target, is really important. It's sorcery speed, so there's some downside there. You're going to have to get into it really early. You can't hold on to it. And then Heliod hits the battlefield, you got to exile it. But yeah, it's just a card I'm playing right now to deal with Heliod. But this, again, could be flex spot, depending on what you expect to play. All right, the matchup. So when it comes to combo, I have to admit you're very soft to combo. Very soft to combo. Yeah, I have some tools in the sideboard to help you out. Surgical Extraction can help if you can somehow get a combo piece into the graveyard. Fade into Antiquity, for example, to deal with the Heliod decks is useful. But generally speaking, you're going to be in a race with combo. Not the best matchup at all. If you are playing a Valakut deck, well, if your opponent plays Valakut early on, you can Spreading Seas it, and then you're okay. Or maybe that's a good idea to play Cleansing Wildfire, so you can destroy it and then go play, Surgical Extraction on that land you destroyed. Whatever it may be, combo is definitely not going to be your best matchup. That's just how it is. If you can, speed through them and attack them and, overwhelm them with your creatures that they can't combo off properly, then great, but definitely not your best matchup. That's my experience. But overall, I think with the matchups that you have other than combo, I think the deck performs stunningly. Against aggro decks, so aggro decks are where you're going to find a lot of stalemates. So there might be some board stalls where you can't attack in effectively, and neither can your opponent. This is where Tarmogoyf actually comes in pretty handy, because Tarmogoyf can play that game. Tarmogoyf will be the card that stays back while your creatures attack in, and your opponent's going to have to choose whether they start blocking and you start swapping creatures, or they let everything through, but then they're going to attack in, and of course you would using your Tarmogoyf, you're going to block the biggest threat, whatever that threat may be. So Aggro decks, I think you deal with them pretty well in a deck like this. There's going to be a lot of trading, but you just got to have smart plays, and of course, have good draws. And I think aggro decks are perfectly manageable. When it comes to big mana decks, you do have some play against big mana to deal with their, for example, Eldrazi's, getting rid of them with Reality Shift from a side, and just being relatively quicker. Spreading Seas also helps against big mana decks like Tron. So against big mana decks, I wouldn't say it's your best because, again, you have no counters. You can pack counters in the side if you really want to. I tried to stay away from any form of permission, really, in this deck. But you could, if you wanted to, you could pivot to something that's a bit more control-based in the sideboard if necessary. But I think you have enough in the side right now, at least in what I presented, and in the main to, deal with big mana when you need to, and hopefully they don't have the nuts draw and beat you out. That's essentially what it is going to be against big mana. Not Magic, well, again, not Magic is kind of like all the degenerate decks fit into this category. Really depends. At least you're not going to be dealing with Chalice on turn 1 anymore, which is always nice, because Simian Spirit Guide is banned. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to deal with those decks accordingly. I don't have much to say there. You are pretty fast, and your creatures do have low power, so if you're dealing against a card like Ensnaring Bridge, again, they're going to have to really empty out their hand before you're kind of locked. And you do have artifact removal in the side that you can use to get rid of cards like that and just kill off your opponent. So I think overall you could probably deal with a lot of those degenerate decks pretty easily. Surgical Extraction is very powerful against Dredge, since it gets rid of all the cards in all of the 60 in their hand, graveyard, and library. So I think you're actually pretty well positioned. Control. So you do have Veil of Summer out of the side. You're definitely going to rely really strongly on Veil of Summer to deal with your control matchups. You do have a lot of creatures, though, that your control player is going to have to deal with, and that can be problematic for them. You are going to have to think about Supreme Verdict, which you're going to be seeing a lot more of now, or Doomscar, which may start seeing a bit more play in the meta. Yeah, control matches are definitely going to be harder. They're not going to be your best matchups. Not as bad as combo, but I think you're going to have to put in a lot of repetition with Temur Prowess to deal with those matches, but I think, again, it's totally doable, and the fact is you do have access to green now, so Veil of Summer is definitely going to help you out, whereas the blue-red versions of Prowess decks don't have that kind of ability, so I think you're better positioned than those decks against control. Last but not least, mid-range, they have a lot of removal. You have a decent amount of removal. Reality Shift is actually going to be pretty important, believe it or not. Again, it really depends on the type of mid-range deck you're playing, but you are an aggro deck at the end of the day. You can be pretty quick and start dealing significant amounts of damage to your opponent really early on, and they're going to have to be playing catch-up, and that's exactly where you want mid-range to be, playing catch-up. So again, I think mid-range matchups are generally okay. I didn't have too much problem playing against mid-range decks. So that's it for Temur Prowess. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I really had a ton of fun playing with this deck, and I didn't have a lot of trouble. I didn't tweak it too much once I started grinding with it again. So I'm actually very happy with the current formula as it's presented today. So I'm really curious to hear, what you think, if you would change it at all. I'm really curious to see what other card suggestions you would have for a Temur Prowess deck. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy my content in general, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on Twitter and Facebook. All that stuff really helps me out a lot. If you share my content on other platforms, that also really helps. I would really appreciate it. All that stuff is free for you. It takes you a few seconds, but for me, it's invaluable. I can't put a price on it. So really appreciate that kind of support. If you want to go a bit further and enjoy my ever-growing Patreon community, check out the link in the description of this video. I set up the tiers in a way where basically you get some of your money back at the end of every year, kind of like a thank you from me. All that information is on Patreon. Thanks, and have a good one.